I took the night security shift at a grocery store where they left a bizarre set of rules. I saw the listing 2 weeks ago, a night guard needed at Westmark Groceries in a commercial center on the outskirts of town. The shift was from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., paying $21 an hour. Right away, I thought it was weird. What kind of grocery store needs a security guard when it's closed? Was the crime rate that bad here? But I desperately needed the money. And so, 2 days later, after a phone interview with a man named Clive Davis, I started my first shift. As I pulled into the parking lot, I partially understood why they needed a night guard. The store sat on the edge of a run-down strip mall. Large signs plastered on the windows read shop, but judging by the dusty glass and the flickering lampposts, no one had cared about this place in years. I parked near the front door. As I approached the building, I saw a woman hurrying out of the store. "You're Ethan, right?" she said, breathless. "The night guard?" "That's right," I replied. "Clive left your instructions. I put them on the conveyor belt at register number 1. She gave a quick, polite nod and rushed toward the only other car in the lot. "Oh, thanks. Hey, what's your name?" I turned back, reminding myself to be friendly to my new coworker, but she was already scrambling into her car. The door slammed shut, the car backed out, and she was gone. Well, no new friends then. I turned back to the store. The parking lot was empty now, and the nearest street lamp flickered with a strange, inconsistent rhythm. A cold gust of wind blew a crumpled paper bag across the asphalt. In for a penny, in for a pound. I walked inside. The glass door shrieked open. Despite the old exterior, the inside was decent. Fluorescent lights shone brightly from the ceiling, and faint jazz music played from hidden speakers. I headed to register number 1, where a folded piece of paper waited for me. I opened it and read, "To Ethan. Welcome to the Westmark family. We sincerely hope you enjoy your first shift. To assist you, we've compiled a list of rules to make your shift as easy as fresh-baked apple pie. 1. As the night guard, you must patrol the store every half hour to ensure everything is secure. You may spend the remainder of the time in the break room at the back of the store, monitoring the security cameras. 2. Do not enter aisle 7. Do not look down aisle 7. 3. If you hear tapping sounds coming from inside the freezers in the frozen food section, ignore it. 4. If you find a shopping cart out of place, please return it immediately to the designated cart area near the front entrance. 5. Do not panic if you see a pool of blood in the meat section. Meat packages sometimes leak. Just go to the storage room, grab the mop and bucket, and clean it up. However, do not step in the blood or touch it in any way. 6. If you see a woman inside the store, immediately go to the break room and stay there until she leaves. Do not call the police or report a break-in. Do not look into her eyes. 7. The music playing in the store is a pre-recorded instrumental jazz album. If the music stops, immediately go to the break room and stay there until the music resumes. 8. Under no circumstances are you to end your shift early. Thank you very much, and once again, have a great shift. Signed, Clive Davis. I stared at the rules, reading them over slowly. They were utterly bizarre. A woman in the store? Avoiding aisle 7? I had never received instructions like this, even when I worked security at a sketchy downtown nightclub. Maybe it was a test. They wanted to see if I could follow ridiculously specific instructions. I looked up at the corner camera, watching me. All right, challenge accepted. I checked the time on my phone, 12:06 a.m., time for the first patrol before settling in. Walking through the store when it was this empty and quiet was genuinely eerie. All the bread and muffins were put away, and opaque white plastic sheets covered the deli counters to maintain the chill. When I reached the end of the aisle, I turned right into the meat section. The display cases were also covered in plastic sheets. I saw streaks of red through the gaps, giant roasts and sirloins, huge slabs of meat still on the bone. I quickly turned away. I'm not a vegetarian, but I don't like looking at raw meat. I moved on to the other aisles. Aisle 3, neatly stocked pasta and sauce. Aisle 4, cookies and snacks. Aisle 5, aisle 6. Right. I won't look down aisle 7. I forced myself to look down at the floor. Yeah, this feels stupid, but they told me not to look. In case they check the CCTV footage later to rate my performance, I'll stick to every rule. I continued deeper into the store. A few minutes later, I found the break room, an unremarkable brown door with a small, square window cut into it. I made a mental note of its location. After the first patrol, I planned to pull out my laptop and binge-watch Friday the 13th Part 4. Then I got to the west side of the store, the frozen section. I walked down the aisle toward the front. That's when I saw it. A shopping cart tilted awkwardly in the middle of the aisle. I sighed. Of all the rules, this is the one that bothered me most. I was hired as a security guard, not a janitor. Weren't the employees supposed to clear the carts before closing? With a heavy sigh, I started pushing the cart toward the front. The wheels rolled smoothly beneath my hands. The gentle jazz music drifted through the air. I turned the corner by the deli and passed the checkout area, heading toward the front door. That's when I heard it. A small sound, almost inaudible over the jazz. I stopped, straining to listen. A few seconds of silence passed, and then I heard it again. It sounded like someone was crying. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. No one is here. The doors have been locked all night, unless a customer was accidentally locked in after closing. Maybe the employee I met in the parking lot hadn't noticed and locked up before they could get out. "Hello?" I called out. The only reply was a long, drawn-out sob. My heart sank. The sound was that of a woman or maybe a child. "I'm coming, I'll be right there," I shouted, rushing forward, trying to reassure them that everything would be all right. But then I stopped dead. The sound was coming from aisle 7. Do not enter aisle 7. Do not look down aisle 7. The rules were clear. I stopped right before the aisle, next to a display of mayonnaise, and skillfully leaned back to avoid catching a glimpse. "I can help you," I called loudly. "Can you tell me what happened?" Oh, they finally spoke, but not to answer my question. "Help. Help me." A voice trembled through the sobs. "Please, please help me." I wanted to walk into that aisle. One foot was already off the floor, ready to rush in and comfort them. But something held me back, an instinctive feeling, an alarm bell ringing in my head. Of all the aisles, why is this person in aisle 7? Besides, they were safe. They were in an empty store with me. This wasn't some dark alleyway late at night. "Get out of the aisle and I can help you," I called, my voice slightly shaky. "Please, please help me." It was ridiculous. Someone was definitely locked in after closing and they were panicked. Just walk into the aisle and help them get home. But another part of my brain, a primal survival instinct, was screaming, "Don't move." "Do you want me to call someone?" I tried. "Your parents? Family? The police? Help me," the voice pleaded again. The way they said help me was identical every time, with a slight pause at the start, emphasizing the word me. It sounded like a recording or something generated by a loop. It was unnatural. "Get out of the aisle," I screamed. "Come out and I will help you." The sobs grew louder, more frantic and desperate. "Help me." The voice wailed with a desperate pitch that sent a chill down my spine. I stood there, pressed against the mayonnaise display, listening to them cry. Even though it sounded slightly unnatural, the despair in that voice churned my stomach. I considered calling the police. They would know what to do. But I left my phone in my backpack at register number 1. And to get it, I would have to pass aisle 7. The rules didn't say anything about passing aisle 7, just that I couldn't enter it or look down it. I couldn't just stand there and ignore it. What if it really was someone who needed help? A child with a sprained ankle who couldn't stand up. "Don't worry, I'll get my phone and call the police," I shouted. Then I took a deep breath and stepped across the border of aisle 7, heading for the checkout counter. The moment my foot crossed the line, the crying stopped. It was sudden. The violent sobs, and then in an instant, absolute silence, as if someone had flipped a switch. Then footsteps. Loud footsteps, pounding heavily on the floor, of someone running in the aisle. Definitely not a child. And they were rushing right toward me. My heart dropped. It's a trap. They're coming to kill me. And I'm going to die here. But just as I cleared the aisle, the sound stopped. All I could hear was the gentle jazz music drifting from the overhead speakers. I sprinted toward the break room, completely forgetting the cart I was supposed to return. The break room was small and cramped. The square window on the door was covered with cardboard from the inside. The only light source was the computer monitor, displaying the security camera feeds. I quickly scrolled through the footage, realizing that none of the cameras were pointed at aisle 7. It seemed the cameras were deliberately placed to avoid that area. After scanning the grainy, black and white video clips for any abnormalities, I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. When I opened them again, it was almost 12:30 a.m. time for the next patrol. I didn't want to go. I felt safe here, locked in this tiny room. But I also knew I wouldn't be safe if I didn't follow the rules. I shuddered, imagining what might have happened if I had walked into aisle 7, if I had been disobedient. I forced myself out of the chair and headed toward the door. The store was completely silent. No frantic sobbing, no pounding footsteps. I started my patrol from the back of the store, working my way up aisle 17. Cans of food reflected the light on the shelves as I passed, but on closer inspection, I didn't recognize any familiar brands. No Chef Boyardee ravioli or Green Giant peas, just generic labels. Meat stew. The entire aisle was just stew-identical cans, repeated over and over. I got to the end of the aisle and turned right, heading toward the front of the store. And that's when I realized I had violated one of the rules: the shopping cart. I hadn't returned it. It wasn't lying where I had left it either. Instead of being abandoned near aisle 7, it was neatly parked beside a checkout counter, as if some phantom customer was waiting in line to pay. I froze for a few seconds, my hand hovering over the handle. Then I grabbed it and pushed it toward the front door. Outside, the parking lot was shrouded in thick darkness. Not a single lamppost was lit. The cart return was just a few steps from the door, in and out. A few seconds, I told myself. I did it as quickly as I could. I ran into the darkness, shoved the cart into the row, and sprinted back inside. Then I slammed the door shut and locked it. Okay, not too bad, I told myself, momentarily relieved. I enjoyed the store's stillness, the quiet, the safety of being locked inside with no one else. But then I froze. The stillness. Oh no, the jazz music had stopped. How long had it been stopped? I had been so focused on the cart that I hadn't noticed. I bolted toward the back of the store. Cookies and snacks blurred past me as I ran. I turned the corner and rushed straight into the break room. I pulled out the rule list and read it again. Under no circumstances are you to end your shift early. Why would Clive write that? Was it just to ensure no one quit midway? Or would some horrible fate befall me if I left early? Because I really truly wanted to leave. I opened my backpack, pulled out the can of soda I brought, cracked it open, and took a sip. Then I scanned the security videos. 5 hours left. The next 4 patrols went smoothly. The rules didn't specify how long a patrol should take, so every 30 minutes, I ran a circuit around the store as fast as I could. The whole thing took about a minute. For the next 29 minutes, I barricaded myself in the break room. During the second patrol, as I ran through the frozen food area, I heard the tapping. At first, it was a gentle tap on the glass. Then it grew louder, like someone pounding their open palm against the freezer door. As per the rules, I ignored it. I kept running until I was safely back in the break room. On the final patrol, the jazz music stopped again. I immediately changed direction and ran back to the break room as the silence echoed in my ears. And now I was back in the break room with 3 hours left. I looked at the clock on my phone. Every second dragged by slowly until 3 a.m. I stood up, trying to shake the tension out of my body, preparing to run. I used to be a track athlete in high school, but I'd lost my edge over the past 10 years. That last patrol had left me breathless, my legs aching. I gripped the doorknob, my heart pounding in my chest. 3, 2, 1, go! I flung the door open and dashed out into the store, but I didn't get far. There was a huge pool of blood on the floor. I froze. The air was sucked out of my lungs. I stared at the shimmering pool under the fluorescent lights. The rules said I had to clean it up, but that would take at least 10 minutes. I wasn't safe out here. I swallowed hard, then hurried to the storage room, grabbed the mop and bucket, and started cleaning up as quickly as possible. It was a messy job. I pushed the mop through the pool of blood, then dipped it into the bucket, repeating the action over and over. The soapy water in the bucket turned red. A few times, water splashed and nearly hit me, but I finished. I wiped it all clean without touching a single drop of blood. Unfortunately, when I was done, the clock already read 3:27 a.m. Time for the next patrol. I was too tired to run, so I just walked quickly around the store. I passed the freezers. This time, I noticed handprints on the glass. Handprints of various sizes, smeared and smudged, but their proportions were wrong. The fingers were too long, too thick. I turned away and continued. 2.5 hours left. My footsteps echoed on the tile floor. The jazz music was starting to annoy me. I must have heard the same saxophone riff repeat at least 20 times. It made me want to punch something. Sighing, I continued past the produce section, hurrying down the aisles. Then I stopped. Something caught my eye in one of the aisles. I backed up and took a closer look. Someone was standing in aisle 9. A woman. She was wearing a blue linen dress and black high heels. Her long black hair fell down her back, nearly touching her waist. She stood with her back to me, motionless, her pale white arms hanging limply by her sides. In her hand was a basket filled with packages of raw meat. The rule echoed in my head: if you see a woman inside the store, immediately go to the break room. Do not look into her eyes. I slowly backed up, trying to be as quiet as possible. Then I turned into the next aisle, heading for the break room. Click, click, click. Her high heels echoed on the tile floor. I quickened my pace toward the break room, but then I stopped. Her footsteps weren't coming from behind me. They were coming from in front. I looked down at the floor, just in time to see 2 shiny black high heels step into the aisle. Do not look into her eyes. Do not look into her eyes. The words repeated in my head, but I had to get to the break room and she was blocking the way. All I could see were the gleaming high heels and the tiny drops of blood leaking from the meat packages in her basket, staining the floor. I backed away. That was the only way I could go. I kept my eyes fixed on the floor, careful not to look up. But she followed me. Click, click. With every step I took, I saw another shiny black heel appear, attached to a pale, slender calf, moving in sync with me. I moved faster. She did too. Click, click, click. I spun around and dashed. Click, 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 click. I ran randomly into an aisle and rushed toward the break room, but then, halfway down the aisle, I stopped. There was a shopping cart blocking the middle of the aisle. Not one cart, but several, stacked on top of each other into a wobbling tower, almost as tall as the shelves. I was trapped. I backed up, my heart pounding. Click. The slow, steady footsteps approached me. Slow, like a cat stalking its prey. I took a desperate turn and ran back into the open space, then entered the next aisle. No. I knew it immediately. A crumpled heap of gray rags and pale, sickly skin lay curled up on the floor. It was a human, or rather, a creature curled up like a crying child, but clearly inhuman, with strange lumps, twisted limbs, and completely no head. I had walked into aisle 7. I immediately turned back, but before I could get far, the creature stretched out and began to move toward me. I screamed, turned around, and ran down the next aisle as fast as I could. Miraculously, I reached the end of the aisle unharmed. I took a sharp left, rushing toward the break room. Almost there. My hand touched the doorknob. I twisted it hard and dove inside, collapsing into the chair, panting. I took a deep breath, staring at the locked door. Was I really safe in here? The rules never said I would be. Maybe this only minimized my chances of being killed. I shifted my gaze to the security monitor on the desk. The camera showed the middle of the store. As far as I could tell, the aisles were empty. No sign of the woman. I switched to the next camera. The produce section was empty. I switched to another camera. I flinched. She was standing right there in front of the break room door. She stood still as a photograph, except for the trail of blood leaking from the meat packages in her basket onto the floor. I swallowed and turned my face away from the screen, looking toward the door. My heart hammered in my chest when I saw her shadow stretching beneath the door crack. "Go away, please go away," I silently pleaded. The shadow of her head on the doorframe tilted, as if she were contemplating her next move. Now I understood why the window was covered. I forced myself to turn and look at the screen again. She was still standing there, but something was different about the way she stood. I squinted at the blurry black and white image, trying to figure out what was wrong. My gaze stopped at her high heels. I realized they were pointing forward, but I was still looking at the back of her head, her long black hair cascading to her waist. Either her hair was completely covering her face, or she had turned her head 180 degrees backward. It took about 20 minutes for her to start moving away from the door. I wasn't sure if it was because of the low frame rate of the cheap camera, but her movements looked jerky. Her body swayed with every step. Watching her move made me nauseous. When she disappeared from the screen, I breathed a sigh of relief. My hands and feet were weak and trembling. Okay, think. The rules say to wait until she leaves. All I had to do was monitor the camera at the main entrance. When I saw her walk out the door, I'd be safe. After a few minutes of sitting there, waiting for my heart rate to return to normal, I forced my fingers back to the keyboard. I pressed the arrow key, switching to the next cam, and the next, and the next, looking for the camera pointed at the front entrance of the store. No, her face filled the screen. Her eyes horrified me. They were completely white, no pupils, no irises, just pale white eyes with blood vessels webbing across them like a network of broken capillaries. I screamed and fell backward, tumbling out of the chair. Then I squeezed my eyes shut. The rules said not to look into her eyes. Did that count? Through a screen? I let out a shuddering whimper of terror, covering my face with my hands, my whole body trembling. When I finally peeked through my fingers, I saw her. She was crawling rapidly down the wall, away from the ceiling camera, like a spider. Then she flew through the glass door and disappeared into the night. She had left. I was safe, as safe as I could be in this cursed store. I glanced at the clock, 3:58 a.m., patrol time. I truly didn't want to go, but I forced myself to open the door and run through the store as fast as possible. I saw the precariously stacked towers of shopping carts, heard the banging on the freezer doors, and saw the small spots of blood on the shining tile floor, the traces she left while stalking me. Then, a minute later, I was done. I locked myself in the break room, and for the first time in years, I broke down sobbing. The remaining patrols passed without incident, although I still heard the crying from aisle 7 and the banging from the freezers. Then the moment came. 6 a.m. My heart soared when I saw the pale pink sunrise through the front windows. I was safe. I was free. Looking out into the parking lot, I saw a few cars pulling in. Tired, grumpy employees clutching coffee cups walked toward the door. The moment the first one walked in, I bolted out of the store, jumped into my car, and drove away as fast as I could. I had never felt so relieved, so happy. As I turned onto the main road, I rolled down my window and turned on the radio. But the familiar classic rock station didn't come on. Instead, I heard a jazzy saxophone tune. And as I listened to the awful, looping melody, I realized that my days as a night guard for Westmark Groceries might not be over.